Hello everyone, it's Samantha with Empower Multimedia. We post content regarding business, academia, and entrepreneurship. Today, we will be covering the stimulus bill update. And just as a reminder, this video is strictly informational and not advice. Now let's get into it. This first bit of information is coming from Yahoo Finance. So if you haven't heard yet, on Saturday, February 27th, the House passed President Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus package early on Saturday, moving the legislation to the Senate for a vote where it will likely meet even more resistance. Basically, what happened was the Democratic-controlled House voted 219 to 212 to pass the American Rescue Plan. This package will now go to the Senate, where it requires 51 votes to pass through reconciliation. Support from the entire Democratic caucus in the Senate, along with Vice President Kamala Harris's tie-breaking vote, is needed to get the legislation through with Republican backing. But support from more moderate Democrats like Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Kyrsten Sinema, who have opposed the $15 minimum wage provision, is up in the air. Speaking of the $15 minimum wage, the House version of the bill included the minimum wage provision, but it may be stripped out from the final version the Senate votes on after the Senate parliamentarian ruled that the measure can't be passed using the budget reconciliation process. So without this provision, the legislation stands a better chance to pass through Congress easily, according to Mark Harkins, a former congressional staffer and senior fellow at Georgetown's Government Affairs Institute. Here are some things that Harkins said to Yahoo Money. He said, "I would be shocked if a version of the relief package that fairly closely resembles the House package does not clear the Senate in the next week to 10 days. This package has fairly wide support in polling, and I don't think that Senator Manchin wants to be seen as a roadblock to President Biden's first major legislative item." In an analysis by the Century Foundation, they found that this spring up to 11.4 million workers stand to lose their base unemployment benefits, while all out-of-work Americans could see the extra $300 in weekly benefits disappear if no stimulus deal is passed, and 3 unemployment programs expire. This will be an important thing to keep in mind when the Senate is thinking about passing or not. Let's take a look at what's in the bill. The legislation includes stimulus payments, the extension of key unemployment programs that are set to lapse in the spring, aid to small businesses, $350 billion to state and local governments, an increase in tax credits for low and middle income families, and $160 billion for a national program on vaccination and testing. Furthermore, eligible Americans would receive a $1,400 stimulus payment plus $1,400 for any dependent. Some high-income earners who were eligible for the stimulus payments under Biden's initial plan are not eligible for the payments under the latest proposal. This plan would also improve the child tax credit, making it refundable and worth up to $3,000 per child, or $3,600 for a child under 6 for 2021. The provision also allows American families to receive periodic payments for the credit for 1 year beginning in July. The eligibility requires for the Earned Income Tax Credit would also be expanded under the proposal. The plan would also put into place a federal moratorium on evictions and foreclosures until the end of September and would allocate billions of dollars towards food insecurity. Here we can see a visual chart of the breakdown of the $1.9 trillion in the rescue plan. So our first category is going to be individuals, which overall will cost about $965 billion. And this is with $465 billion going towards the $1,400 stimulus checks, the $350 billion going towards extending unemployment and the additional $400 a week, expanding tax credits, which is $120 billion, and the rental and small landlord support, which is $30 billion. Our next category is the government, which we have the aid to state and local governments, which will be costing $350 billion. Our next category is health and education, with one being school reopening and funding to schools and colleges, which is going to cost around $170 billion. And we also have the National Vaccination Program and Testing, which is $160 billion. Finally, we have other, and generally that's going to be around $200 billion for other expenses, and also child care, which is $25 billion. This next bit of information is coming from CBS News. Let's take a look at a timeline. So the Senate could vote on the package late next week, with the House then casting its final vote over the weekend of March 6th or during the week of March 8th. Lawmakers are seeking to pass the bill before March 14th, when expanded unemployment aid of $300 per week is set to expire. So, to be sure, disputes or disagreements could still derail the bill, but Democrats are using a process called budget reconciliation to pass the legislation, which means only a simple majority in the Senate is required for approval, rather than 60 votes required by most bills to overcome a potential filibuster. In other words, Democrats don't need support from Republican senators to pass the rescue plan. Let's look at the IRS timeline. If the bill is passed by March 12th, the Friday before extra jobless aid is set to expire, stimulus checks could begin hitting bank accounts anywhere from a few days to a week following that, based on the IRS's time frame for distributing the second round of stimulus checks in December. And the IRS relies on taxpayers' most recent tax return to determine how much they should receive and when they might receive it. And this is why some tax experts are urging taxpayers to file their returns as soon as possible, especially if they had a major life change, such as the birth of a child or the loss of a job or income last year. And because the IRS officially started accepting tax returns on February 12th and will be close to the filing window on its customary date of April 15th, the plan could be passed in the middle of tax filing season. And if a taxpayer doesn't file their 2020 tax returns before Congress passes its next relief bill, the agency will likely rely on their 2019 tax return to calculate the stimulus check payment. And that 2019 return might not reflect income losses during the last year's economic crisis or a new child, for example. In that case, a taxpayer might not receive as much stimulus money as they are entitled to. Let's also remember that there are income limits. A person's income is the chief determinant of whether they'll get a check as well as the payment amount. The payments would amount to $1,400 for a single person or $2,800 for a married couple filing jointly. Only individuals earning up to $75,000 would get the full payments, as would married couples with incomes up to $150,000. Payments would decline for incomes above those thresholds, phasing out above $100,000 for individuals and $200,000 for married couples. Some lawmakers have argued that the check should be targeted to lower-income families, citing research that shows that higher-income families are rebounding from the pandemic's economic impact. But other research signals widespread financial pain throughout the nation. With the ranks of adults experiencing financial hardship last month, little changed from December, according to Morning Consult economist John Lear. A third round of $1,400 checks would allow nearly 23 million adults to pay their expenses for more than 4 months without going into more debt or eating into their savings, his analysis found. Thank you for watching the stimulus update. This concludes the video. Make sure you check back with Empower Multimedia for all of your business, academia, and entrepreneurship concerns. If you have any questions, comments, or video recommendations, please comment below. Also remember to like and subscribe.